Welcome back, Giants. Week number 12 game preview versus the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. They get the prime spot, 4:30 game at Dallas. Of course, the Cowboys get this slot every year. So the Giants in this game, massive underdogs. They are 10-point underdogs right now from where I'm looking. And it makes sense. The Giants have a ton of injuries. The Cowboys have a fierce pass rush. The Giants' offensive line is not very good to begin with, but even worse now based on some of these injuries. These are players not traveling with the team, according to Pat Leonard. John Feliciano, Evan Neal, who apparently is pretty close, Josh Izuda, Shane Lemieux. So those guys will not be playing on the Giants' offensive line. It's going to be a tough uphill battle for that Giants' offensive line and the entire offense as a whole. But it is the NFL. Anything can happen. Do I expect to win? Not really. But it's the NFL. We see this just about every single week. I remember doing my spread pick show at sometime around week 6 or week 7. It was the game where Tampa was at the Panthers. The Panthers had just traded Christian McCaffrey. Tampa was like 13-point favorites. I picked Tampa in Survivor, and I'm thinking it's a lock. It's a lock, Jerry, for those who know the Seinfeld reference. But it was a lock. And, of course, Tampa lost. And they lost by a lot. It was like 21-3 or something like that. It was a bad loss. So you never know. The NFL, crazy things happen. But anyway, both teams are 7-3. Dallas won the first meeting between these two teams, 23-16 back at MetLife on a Monday night in Week 3. So if the Giants lose, they fall to 7-4. Dallas would hold a tiebreaker and be up by a full game. So it's not a must-win for the Giants to get into the playoffs, but of course, if you want to keep pace with Dallas and have a chance to pass them, the Giants may have to win this game. And looking at Dallas' schedule the rest of the way, pretty damn easy. Giants, who are injured, Colts, they're already 9.5-point favorites for that game, which it's 2 weeks ahead, but still. Texans, Jaguars, the Eagles is the toughest one. At the Titans, okay, that's also kind of tough, but at Washington. So there's like 3-4 pretty easy wins there and maybe 2 hard games to end the season. But Dallas is in a good spot. The Giants, on the other hand, I believe have like the 5th or 6th hardest schedule remaining. So the Giants, of course, are going to be in a tougher spot. And the Giants, I know they're a plus 10 for this game, 10-point underdogs. But looking ahead to Week 13, they're already 1-point underdogs versus Washington. So, of course, that depends on what the Giants do this game and, of course, what Washington does in their game. But right now, at least, the Giants are underdogs at home versus Washington. So anyway, we'll get into the injuries. We already kind of did, but we'll get into the full injuries, talk about the game, some of the matchups, all that stuff, the expectations. Leave a like, leave 5 stars on the podcast, all that good stuff, and let's get into it. We'll start with the Giants this week. Daniel Bellinger still out with the eye injury. Josh Izuda, John Feliciano, as I mentioned, they're out both with neck injuries. Adoree Jackson and Fabian Moreau, the Giants' top 2 cornerbacks, they're out. So, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Nice to be them right now. Richie James, who would take over at slot receiver because of Wan'Dale Robinson just tearing his ACL, is questionable with a knee injury. Tyree Phillips, the guy who has been filling in at right tackle for the Giants, he's also questionable, which is also a neck injury. So I don't know what's up with Giants offensive linemen and these neck injuries, but hopefully they're okay. Andrew Thomas, illness, did not practice on Tuesday, but he had a light practice or limited practice today. So we need him because, my goodness, if Thomas is out, forget about it. Just don't even show up. For Dallas, Anthony Barr, out. Terrell Basham, Dante Fowler, edge rushers, those guys are questionable. Jonathan Hankins, the former Giant, is doubtful with an illness. And then a bunch of questionable guys, Kelvin Joseph, DeMarcus Lawrence, who I think had like 3 sacks in their first meeting, Osa Odighizuwa, Micah Parsons, who was a bit hampered in that Vikings game, but he came back when it was a blowout. I don't know why, but he did, so I'm assuming he'll be fine. And Donovan Wilson with an illness, so I don't know if there must be some type of illness going around here in the Cowboys locker room because a lot of guys have illnesses on this injury report. So yeah, both teams are banged up. Makes sense. It's week 12, short week. But yeah, can't really make excuses. They got to go out there and play the game. Like to make a basketball reference, my Brooklyn Nets played the 76ers last night. Nets were big favorites. They were on the road, but the Sixers were without their best 3 players, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey. Of course, the Nets still lost the game. So that's why you got to play the games. I know it looks bad on the Giants injury report. I know the spread looks bad, but you got to play the games because you never know. So the Cowboys team stats. So their offense ranks 7th in points. They're 14th in yards. 23rd in passing attempts. They're 22nd in passing yards. Of course, this is more of a run-first type of team. They are 11th in yards per pass attempt, net yards per pass attempt, so that's pretty solid. 9th in rushing attempts, 8th in rushing yards, 4th most rushing touchdowns. Like, I think their running backs, Zeke and Pollard, each had 2 touchdowns last week, so when you're getting 4 touchdowns from running backs, it's pretty damn good. But they are 14th in yards per attempt. attempts, so I guess Dallas has not been as efficient when running the ball, but they're still pretty damn good at it. Defensively, Dallas has the #1 ranked defense in points against, 9th best defense in yards allowed, the 7th most turnovers, the #1 passing defense right now in football based on total yards. They have a 26th ranked rush defense, so of course that's not very good, and 27th in yards allowed per attempt. So at least for the Giants, the one thing they are good at offensively for the most part is running the ball. But that gets me nervous because we just saw the Lions, they had like an even worse rush defense coming into last week, and they held Saquon Barkley to like 15 carries for 22 yards. So I'm sure a good defensive coordinator like Dan Quinn is not going to let Saquon Barkley beat his defense. So the Giants are going to have to pass the ball in this game, and with the offensive line injuries and the receiver injuries, it's definitely a tough task for Daniel Jones. And speaking of Daniel Jones, he was sacked a lot in their first matchup. I mean, I think as Giant fans, we sometimes like kind of over-exaggerate how bad our offensive line is at times, but in that game versus the Cowboys in week 3, the first meeting, it was legitimately terrible. Like, I don't think there was anything Daniel Jones could have done in that game. So, you know, and the Cowboys right now, looking at the team stats on the year, so the Cowboys are in first place with 42 team sacks this year. That is 6 more than the second place team, the Patriots. So, shows you how dominant the Cowboys' defensive line and just pass rush as a whole has been. And when you look at the offensive line adjusted sack rate, according to Football Outsiders, the Giants are ranked 31st. Now, somehow, the Chicago Bears have a 14.3% adjusted sack rate. The Giants are 31st at 9.7. Like, it's hard to fathom that an offensive line can be as bad as Chicago's. They're almost 5% worse than we are, and we're in 31st. So, poor Justin Fields. So anyway, yeah, Dallas's pass rush, they should have a good day. I would think Dallas probably gets at least a few sacks in this game, but I do think the Giants, at least offensively, should emphasize getting Daniel Jones on the move. They saw what happened in the first matchup, and just get the ball out of his hands quickly. There was that game, I know it was 2018, Saquon's rookie year, but, you know, Eli Manning towards the end of his career didn't really want to get sacked as much as he used to. I feel like Eli used to stand in there more when he was younger, but Saquon Barkley had that game versus Dallas on the Sunday night where he got like 14 receptions. Not saying that'll be the case here because 14 is like egregious, but this could be one of those Saquon dump off, swing passes type of games where he catches like 6-7 balls, so I guess we'll find out about that. So let's look at some of the matchups. We'll start with the Dallas offense versus the Giants defense. Of course, we'll just go to the wide receivers. Why not? It's the elephant in the room. So the wide receiver matchups and cornerback matchups definitely favor Dallas. There's no secret about that. And they might be getting Odell Beckham, which is like, it's ridiculous. Anyway, so actually, like, I do believe there is something to that. Like, I think whoever wins this game may get Odell, which I maybe that's like too simple thinking or something like that, but I really do think like he could make his decision based on what happens in this game, which definitely favors Dallas being almost, 10-point favorites. Just a thought, but I don't know. Anyway, so Michael Gallup, you have CeeDee Lamb, who's amazing, you have Noah Brown, who's had a pretty decent year for them, and even Dalton Schultz, a tight end, got to include him. And for the Giants, you're going to have Rodarius Williams on the outside, Darnay Holmes in the slot at slot corner, Nick McLeod, who I guess has made some decent plays this year, but just not the guy you want at cornerback 1 for your team. The Giants linebackers, they're going more with Micah McFadden now than Tay Crowder, but they do have Jalen Smith, the former Cowboy, so revenge game for him. Julian Love at safeties, like the one guy I trust, Nate Belton. Not having the best year, but I do think he's a decent playmaker, so maybe he gets an interception or something. Dallas's offensive line, although it wasn't what it was at one point, still pretty solid, so it's not like the Giants have that much of an advantage there. You are going to get a lot of Kayvon Thibodeau versus their rookie left tackle, Tyler Smith, so Kayvon, if there's a game where you can break out, we need it this time, please. So if Kayvon can have one of those games that we've been waiting for, that would be amazing. I just assume that Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, they're going to be good in any matchup. It doesn't really matter. We're going to see some, O'Shane Zimenez against the right tackle, some Jihad Ward. And it seems like Terrence Steele has done a pretty good job at right tackle for the most part, taking over for La'el Collins, who went to the Bengals. On the other side, when the Giants are on offense, I would expect a lot of Trayvon Diggs on Darius Slayton, who is by far the Giants wide receiver 1 right now. We'll see if it's Isaiah Hodgins at the other outside wide receiver spot. I would assume it is. We'll still see Kenny Golladay, maybe even David Sills. We'll see Marcus Johnson. And I wonder if Hodgins gets not benched, but just sees a decrease in playing time because of that fumble last week. It is possible. If it were me, I would give Golladay the first nod. I just feel like he gives you the best chance right now. I would go Slayton, James in the slot, Golladay on the outside. Like, I think that's pretty much the best way the Giants can go about it right now. So Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence on that defensive line for Dallas, they are unbelievable, especially Micah Parsons, who is just arguably one of the best defenders in football. So sucks to see him in a Cowboys uniform, and sucks that we did pass on him technically. But yeah, stuff happens. So Donovan Wilson at safety. Jaron Kearse is back. He actually missed the first game, I think, when the Giants played the Cowboys. But Donovan Wilson is battling the illness, I think it was. So he's questionable. We'll see. Leighton Vander Esch at linebacker is having a pretty decent season. And on the Giants offensive line, assuming Andrew Thomas is out there, it should be Thomas at left tackle for sure. Nick Gates should get his first start since that Thursday nighter versus Washington. I think last year it was when he broke his leg. Glowinski should be at right guard still. Right tackle, if Tyree Phillips is out, it's probably going to be Matt Peart, who, I think he came back last week for the first time, and, he was hit or miss, I guess. And then you have maybe Jack Anderson at left guard. The Giants' offensive line is absolutely in shambles right now, but it's only one game, hopefully. They get Evan Neal back soon. It seems like he's close to getting back. I would really assume he's back for the next game versus Washington. I would hope they use Daniel Jones' legs in this game, because why not? You need all the help you can get. You need every offensive weapon at your disposal, and Daniel Jones' legs are part of that. Saquon Barkley, he cannot have a game he had last week. I know it's hard to blame him for what happened versus the Lions, but if Saquon has one of those games where it's like below 2 yards a carry, even below 3 yards a carry, I just don't see how it goes well for the Giants. And I'm hoping this game doesn't ruin Thanksgiving, but I guess we'll wait and see about that. I did say before the year, though, when I was doing the schedule reaction, when the schedules came out, I said just get me to that Dallas game at 6-4. And now they're 7-3, so I really can't complain. I've always wanted this game to be competitive, and, based on the spread, it won't be, but at least both teams are 7-3. The Giants are still very much in the playoff picture, so that is the good news, but the bad news is the Giants are very hurt, and kind of sucks. But I'll talk to you guys after that game, probably sometime tomorrow night. I'll make a video, if not Friday, but I was assuming tomorrow night I'll be having a reaction out to this game. And hopefully, when I see you guys next, the Giants will somehow be 8-3. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys next time.